Imagine biting into a juicy apple only to discover it's been artificially colored and waxed. This isn't the plot of a dystopian novel, but a harsh reality we're going to dive into today. Fake and toxic foods in China have become a widespread problem, much more than just an occasional headline in the news. It's a pervasive issue that goes beyond low-quality food or mere imitations. We're talking about foods that are downright toxic, foods that pose a serious health risk. You may have heard of plastic rice, a product that looks like rice, feels like rice, but is made from cheap synthetic materials. But this isn't the only offender. There are countless other examples that are just as shocking, from artificially colored and waxed fruits to counterfeit eggs. Yes, you heard it right, even eggs aren't spared in this fraudulent game. The spectrum of fake foods is vast and terrifying. You could be sipping on a cup of tea, thinking you're enjoying a moment of tranquility, but in reality, you could be ingesting pesticide-soaked leaves. Or maybe you're relishing a bowl of noodles, unaware that they are made from industrial-grade gluten that's unfit for human consumption. And then there's the story of the so-called gutter oil, a term that sends chills down the spine of every food lover. It refers to cooking oil that's been illegally recycled from waste oil collected from restaurant fryers, drains, and even sewers. This oil, loaded with carcinogens and toxins, is then resold and used in street food stalls and unsuspecting eateries. It's not just about the deceit, it's about the danger these foods pose to the health and well-being of millions of people. It's about the unchecked greed that places profit over people's lives. This isn't a horror movie, it's a horrifying reality for millions of people. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into this unpalatable truth, unraveling the real figures, unmasking the culprits, and exploring the human cost of this toxic food crisis. The scale of the problem is as staggering as it is shocking. Let's dive into the figures behind this food safety crisis. The enormity of the issue is not confined to a few isolated incidents. Rather, it's a pervasive problem that's affecting the health of millions. To give some perspective, let's recall one of China's most shocking food scandals, the 2008 milk scandal. A shocking 22 dairy producers were found guilty of adding melamine, a toxic industrial compound, to baby milk powder. This resulted in the hospitalization of over 54,000 infants, 6 tragic fatalities, and an estimated 300,000 victims. This incident laid bare the horrifying extent of food adulteration in the country. Now, let's talk about gutter oil. It's a term that will make your stomach churn. This is illegally recycled waste cooking oil, often scooped right out of the sewers, reprocessed, and then sold back to restaurants. As revolting as it sounds, it's a widespread practice. It's estimated that 1 in every 10 meals in China is cooked using this toxic oil. That's potentially hundreds of millions of people unknowingly consuming hazardous substances with their food. You might be wondering, what are the health implications? Well, they're dire. Consuming food contaminated with gutter oil can lead to serious health issues including stomach disorders, liver damage, and even cancer. The worst part? The perpetrators often go unpunished. Despite the crackdowns and the harsh penalties, the lucrative nature of this illicit trade keeps it thriving. The numbers are staggering, but they paint a grim picture of the reality. It's not just about the money or the trade, it's about the health and well-being of millions of people. It's a crisis that's been brewing for years. And it's one that demands immediate attention. These aren't just numbers, they're a reflection of a food safety crisis that's putting lives at risk. Behind every fake apple or toxic dumpling, there's someone responsible. In China's shadowy food industry, the culprits are numerous and elusive. They are the unscrupulous manufacturers, the middlemen, and lax regulators, all playing their part in this dangerous charade. The food industry is not just about feeding people, it's about profit. And for some, any means to increase that profit is fair game, even if it means jeopardizing public health. Let's delve into the murky world of these unscrupulous manufacturers. Their tactics are as diverse as they are dangerous. Expired products are a particular favorite. They repackage these, slap on a new best before date, and voila, yesterday's stale bread becomes today's fresh loaf. But it doesn't stop there. Fake foods are more than just rebranded old goods. They are a cocktail of dangerous additives, chemicals, and fillers, all designed to mimic the look and taste of the real deal. From plastic rice to honey laced with corn syrup, these manufacturers have perfected the art of deception. Then there's the middlemen, those who buy these products knowing full well the risks they pose. Their role is to distribute these harmful goods far and wide, ensuring they land on dinner tables across the country. They are the silent accomplices in this dangerous game. But what about the regulators? Surely they should be our last line of defense. Unfortunately, the reality is far from ideal. All too often, lax regulation and weak enforcement allow these dangerous products to slip up through the cracks. The truth is, the system that should protect us is often part of the problem, and so we find ourselves caught in a twisted game of cat and mouse. On one side, the manufacturers and middlemen always finding new ways to deceive. On the other, the regulators struggling to keep up. And in the middle, the consumers unknowingly consuming what could be harmful to their health. It's a twisted game of cat and mouse, with consumers' health hanging in the balance. For the victims of fake and toxic foods, the consequences can be devastating. Imagine a young toddler innocently sipping on a glass of milk, not knowing that it's laced with melamine, a toxic industrial compound. This was the reality for tens of thousands of Chinese children during the 2008 milk scandal, many of whom developed severe kidney problems as a result. Now, imagine a hard-working family scrimping and saving to put food on the table, only to find out that the cooking oil they've been using is recycled waste oil, filled with carcinogens and harmful toxins. This isn't just a hypothetical scenario. It's the harsh reality for countless families across China. These heartbreaking stories shed light on the human cost of fake and toxic foods. It's not just about money being wasted on inferior products. It's about the health and well-being of individuals. It's about families being fooled into thinking they're providing for their loved ones, when in reality, they're unknowingly causing harm. Consider the long-term health implications. Regular consumption of these toxic foods can lead to a host of medical conditions, including cancer, liver failure, and heart disease. The effects are not always immediate, but they're insidious, slowly eating away at a person's health over time. And what about the emotional cost? The guilt of parents who unknowingly fed their children toxic milk, or the fear and uncertainty of not knowing if the food on your table is safe to eat. These are burdens that no one should have to bear. But the human cost extends beyond the individual. It impacts communities, placing a strain on healthcare systems and sowing mistrust and fear. It's a ripple effect that touches every aspect of society. It's a silent epidemic with victims who often don't realize they're being poisoned until it's too late. This is the true cost of fake and toxic foods. It's a cost that's too high to ignore, and a problem that demands our attention. But it's not all doom and gloom. There's something we can all do about it. We live in an era of information, a time where knowledge is power. In the face of these alarming issues of food safety, it is our responsibility, as consumers, to arm ourselves with the right information. The power to change the narrative lies in our hands, and it starts with being more vigilant about what we consume. Knowing what goes into our bodies begins with understanding where our food comes from. Researching brands, scrutinizing labels, and understanding ingredients can go a long way in ensuring we consume only what's safe. Don't just settle for the first thing you see on the shelf. Take your time. Read reviews, look up the brand's history, and make sure they adhere to food safety norms. And then, there's the price. If a deal appears too good to be true, it probably is. Suspiciously cheap products should raise red flags. Quality food requires quality ingredients, and these come at a cost. Be wary of those offering a feast for a penny, for they might be cutting corners in ways that could harm your health. But our responsibility doesn't end there. We must also support initiatives that promote food safety. This can be as simple as buying from companies that prioritize transparency in their sourcing and manufacturing processes, or as profound as advocating for stronger food safety regulations. Every action counts, and every choice we make can create ripples of change. So, let's take this as a call to action. Let's be the change we wish to see, not just for ourselves but for future generations. Let's strive for a world where every bite we take is not a gamble, but a celebration of good health and good food. It's time to take a stand against fake and toxic foods, because everyone deserves to eat without fear.